So this has been my year of walking and talking with AI. Every morning, I get up, I put my dog on his leash, pop my headphones on, and for a good hour, I walk and talk with AI. It has led to some of the most insightful conversations of my adult life, and it has opened a window into cognitive accessibility that I think can significantly impact our neurodiverse society. So, what do I say to AI? I say good morning, ask it how it's going, talk about the weather, and then I tell it all of the things that I've got on for the day, at least the things that I can remember. And then I ask it to help me with all of the things that I can't remember. It goes through recent memories, it goes through conversations. It says, "You've been working on this particular project lately. Should we do anything on that across the day?" And I say, "Absolutely. Can you help me with research? Can you help me to summarize? Can you help me to role play how I'm going to bring this up in a meeting later in the week?" Now, I'm an educator by trade. I've worked in autism and neurodivergent education spaces for the past 20 years. And I've had the opportunity during that time to work with a range of emerging technologies that have sought to improve accessibility and to support the inclusion of all people across our society. And as part of my year of walking and talking with AI, I've had the chance to use this framework, use this practice with people here in town, as well as around the world, to better understand the sort of impacts on cognitive accessibility, on quality of life, particularly for those with neurodivergent minds. And what I've learned are three things that I'm going to share with you as part of this talk. The first is that for some of us, we can focus on a thought in our head with more attention and more consistency when we have a verbal conversation with AI. The second is the impact that this has on our executive functioning, the administration team in our brain that's responsible for planning and organizing. My executive functioning this year feels like it's received a complete refurbishment. It's like there's new furniture in there, new lights. It's very nice. And the third part is that I believe all of this can be implemented as part of a healthy daily routine, like an ambient lifestyle practice of walking and talking with AI. I've developed a framework that I call Rhythm, Insight, Play, that I'm going to talk more about shortly. But first, why walk and talk with AI? Maybe the better question is, why walk and think? I've always found walking to be a very inspiring activity. There are whole branches of literature that have come out of the field of walking and thinking. It's much more motivating than being hunched over a desk. And yet it's not easy to necessarily walk and carry a thought with you. Ideas come and go. We get distracted. We distract ourselves. In psychology, they refer to this as continuity of thought. How long can you stay with an idea in your head before it sort of glitches out of view, and sort of turns into something else and disappears? So I'll give you an example of how this looks in my daily life. I'll be walking down the street and I'll think to myself, I'd like to take a trip, maybe to Sydney. Sydney's nice. And then I hear a bird in a tree and I think, what's that bird? And I try to find it and I think, is that bird wearing a hat? It's just a leaf. And then I think, Sydney, I went to a nice restaurant a couple of months ago in Sydney. Who was I there with? I think they were lactose intolerant. I think I'm becoming more lactose intolerant. Thoughts just sort of, they loop, they come and go, they don't really go anywhere. When I'm having a verbal conversation with AI, I can stay with an idea not just for a few seconds, not just for a minute, but for an hour, for 2 hours. And I can see ideas grow and flourish and travel in directions that I would have never otherwise been able to stay with had I not been having that dialogue with AI. Now, this has a significant impact on our executive functioning. I referred to it earlier as the administration team in our brain that's responsible for planning, organising, coordinating. Now, if you think of the brain like a business where different departments do different things, it doesn't matter how brilliant any individual department is. You might have an amazing maths division, you might have a fantastic art department, but if your administration team in the business is not helping to regulate, coordinate, organise, plan what's going on, then nothing happens, nothing gets done. And all of us have different levels of challenge and success with our executive functioning. For those with neurodivergent minds, for whom I'm referring to individuals who are autistic, have ADHD, their administration teams are stretched very thin. What I'm proposing is that through particular implementations of artificial intelligence, we can provide extra resourcing to those administration teams, extra support to that executive functioning. And I'll give you an example from my daily life. I've got a friend and he has a daughter who's neurodivergent, and she finds it incredibly difficult to tidy her room. It's a classic teenage example. It's not that she's lazy, she's not. It's that the problem is just too big. It's too overwhelming. She doesn't know where to start, and so she doesn't. So what I did was I used AI to create a little application. It's called the Room Tidy Assistant. And the way that it works is she gets her phone with the app, she takes a photograph of her room, and the AI assistant says, okay, I can see what we're working with here. You and I, we're going to do this together. First of all, pick up the clothes that I can see on the floor there and put them in the clothes basket. After you've done that, come back and take another photo. Then we'll work on step 2. I think it's probably going to be the books that we're going to put back on the shelf. And for her, that works because it's not just taking a big problem and breaking it down into its smaller parts. It's also saying, I'm here with you. I'm an emotional guide on the side. We're going to do this together as a partnership. And it's not her parents' voice telling her to tidy her room. What could be worse? And if she doesn't like the personality that the AI assistant comes with, she can ask it to change. She can say, be more like a movie character. Suddenly tidying the room becomes like a fantasy adventure. So these are the sorts of things that I think AI can be employed for to support these different parts of executive functioning, cognitive accessibility. And I mentioned earlier about this framework of walking and talking with AI that I call rhythm, insight, play. I'm going to briefly talk you through those different sections now. So rhythm is all about that morning planning. It's that start of the day, it's that morning brain dump. It's telling AI the half dozen things that you've got on across the day, and AI will say, all right, let's help prioritize those things. Let's allocate them to different times of day. Let's estimate how long each of those tasks should take. And you can push back. You can have that conversation and say, actually, I've got a report that I absolutely need to get finished first thing this morning. Can we restructure the day based on that? And your AI assistant says, absolutely, we can. Let's make sure you get that done first. Then you can say, I actually don't know how to do that report. I've been employed to do something for which I've no capacity to do. Can you help me out? And just like that room tidy assistant, just like that guide on the side, it has no judgment. It says, of course I'm going to help you. I think you're selling yourself short. I think you can do this report, but let's look at the information that we need to gather. Let's break the report into its different chapters and start working on chapter 1. Now, does any of this replace a good walk and talk with a friend? Absolutely not. Does it replace quiet contemplation? No. But what it does do is it provides you with access to a tool that is so full of the wisdom of so many books, so many websites, videos, I think unprecedented in human history. I mean, you could say, and I would say, that it contains the sum total of human intelligence, human experience, as can be rendered as text and fed into these large language models that fuel artificial intelligence systems that you can then have a dialogue with, have a chat with, have it adapt to your personal needs, your individual life every morning. That's very powerful. So that's rhythm. The next section is insight. And insight uses another strength of AI, which is its ability to take a whole bunch of random information and find the connections and links between those different things, maybe to a degree that you've never been able to observe yourself. And I'll tell you how this played out in the life of a friend of mine. I've got a good friend, she has ADHD. She came to me a few months ago. She said, I'm just exhausted all the time and feel very incomplete, and I don't know what's going on. And so she took it to AI and she said, can you please have a look through all of the recent conversations that we've been having? Can you have a look at all the notes that I've made? She's a big note taker, notes in the morning, notes in the afternoon, notes at night, feed all of that in. She gave it the last 3 weeks of her work calendar and a whole bunch of emails. She just said, just work out what's going on in my life. And around 30 seconds later, AI came back and said, I know exactly what's going on. You're staying up too late each night watching movies and you're exhausted the next day. But here's the reason that you're doing that. Your work calendar is just meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. You've left no time to get your work done at work, so you're taking it home with you. And by the time you send that last email when you should be going to bed, you think to yourself, I'm going to do something nice for me. I'm going to watch a movie. I'm going to relax. I'm going to let myself unwind. And then she stays up until 1 o'clock in the morning and is exhausted the next day. Now, that's a level of insight that my friend didn't have into her life. Her friends and family didn't either. But AI didn't stop there. It then said, how about you and I create an email or practice having a conversation with colleagues where we push back on setting so many meetings during the day. We make sure that you get time to get your work done at work so home can be about rest, as it should be. And that's what she did. And it made a significant difference to her quality of life. So we've looked at rhythm, we've looked at insight. Play is the third part of this walking and talking with AI framework. And play is so critically important because we're not meant to be well-oiled machines all the time. We're not meant to be working at maximum efficiency with no errors. I don't want AI to be employed for the perfection of, this sort of working human model. We need to play. We need to rest. We need to experiment, be alternative and be uncertain and be okay with all of that. And I think AI's got a really good role to fulfill there. I've got colleagues, the way that they play with AI is they say, here's my 3 favorite movies. Here's my 2 favorite books. Can you strip all of the plots and the characters out of these things and create something totally new? Make a brand new story full of my favorite things that I can listen to as a personal audiobook on the way to work. That's how they rest. That's how they play. The way that I play with AI is I time travel. I'll be walking down the main road with my headphones on, and I'll say, help me experience what this would have looked like 80 years ago, 150 years ago. What would I have heard? What would I have smelt? What would I see around me? AI knows where I am. It taps into the geography, the history, and it creates a sensory narrative that's exactly what it would have been like all those years ago. It's a flight of fancy. It's a way of resting and putting your mind into alternative, playful spaces. So we've got rhythm, insight, play. You might say, why do we even need a framework for walking and talking with AI? To which I'd say, think about the first time that you maybe saw an AI tool like ChatGPT, and you might have thought, this is amazing. How does this thing work? It seems to be doing all these incredible things. But so many people then would just put that aside. They'd think, all right, for those who do come back, it's a work tool that they use for a bit of coding, a bit of proofreading, a bit of idea generation. I think that AI has a capacity to be used for much more than that. I think it can be used for executive functioning support, cognitive accessibility, cognitive health. I think this can be an AI for good story. And that is really my call to action to you. If you've got time across the next week or two, pop some headphones on, get out your phone and load up an AI app that lets you have a voice conversation. I use ChatGPT. Its voice capacity is amazing and it's got this memory that just goes on. And just introduce yourself. Tell it who you are. Tell it what you've got going on across the day. I think you'd be amazed at the sort of mental landscapes that you travel through as you have those conversations, as you're walking around. And to think that we're only just at the very beginning of this technology, to think of where it could go from here is very exciting. Thank you very much.